Hey there, this is a two-part podcast episode. This is the second part of the episode. If you want to listen to the first part, it's last week's episode where we talk about a lot of really cool stuff in Dr. Allmand's past, as well as kind of what led him from being, a dentist that is kind of obsessed about overhead to someone who owns merchant service fee offer as possible, as well as a lot of other cool finance tools that he uses in his own practice every day. So enjoy the rest of this episode. In terms of the fees and trying to keep things as low as possible, let's talk about the credit card paradigm shift that it feels like we're seeing all over the place. I can remember when I was growing up, the only place I could even think of that had a credit card processing fee was this old gas station back in Paragould, Arkansas. It was the Dodge store. So shout out to Dodge's Chicken if you've ever had Dodge's Chicken in Paragould, Arkansas. And it had a cash price and it had a credit card price for everything that you bought at that Dodge's store. And that was the only one I could remember growing up. And then over time, I'd see some restaurants sometimes would have two prices on their menu. And nowadays, it seems like everywhere you go, there's a credit card processing fee as a part of it. Most online vendors nowadays have it. If you go pay your license or registrations or most anything with the government, they're like, hey, by the way, there's a credit card processing fee and you got to pay this fee to use a credit card with us. And sometimes it's quite a bit of money. So a lot of things are changing in terms of that. So I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about the hidden fees and the game that's played in terms of it and how Apex Payment Solutions attacks that, as well as tries to be as transparent as it can be to be fair to the dental practices out there. Let's start with that. Talk to me about, the journey into Apex and getting it up and running and what you try to do to be different in terms of the credit card processors that are out there.
Sure. And, it is an ever evolving process, right? When we started in 2016, I really wanted to come in as a lower cost processing option for my colleagues. We did some case studies on what's it actually cost to support the servers and to buy the rate and to have the team on standby to assist with any problems. Then I said, okay, what's this cost? What's our minimal operating cost? And then how can we set a pricing that is fair to the dentist and still allows us to grow the company? And I wanted to set it lower than the competition. We came into the market as what's called an interchange plus processing company. The most transparent way of processing. Basically, we say we're taking the interchange rate, which is the true cost of the card, and we're passing that on to you, and then we're charging X percentage on top of that for our services to facilitate, support the transactions. And, we came in at like interchange plus 0.25%, which was way less than the competition. And what that led to was our clients were seeing effective rates of about 1.8 to 2.1% all in. And the industry average when we came into the marketplace was 3%. And, how you arrive at that 3%, you're talking about hidden fees. There's different types of fee structures that credit card processors will use because they'll promise one rate, but it's a smoke and mirrors game because most of the cards actually process at a higher rate. And nobody actually really understands all the actual fees that are being passed on from Visa, MasterCard, and Amex. And so it's just, you got to look at when you're assessing your effective rate or what you're actually paying, it's called the effective rate. So if you process $10,000, how much are you paying in fees? Divide that out. If you're paying over 2.5%, you're grossly overpaying for your processing. Okay. And so that's the benchmark we used. And what we do is we're doing cost comparison analysis, like we're treatment planning for dentists. We're showing them side by side comparisons. Here's what you're paying. Here's what you would pay with Apex. Here's how much you could save each month. And to be honest, when we started, people didn't believe the savings that they were seeing. And they would actually not go with us because we were showing them ridiculous amounts of savings. We have one client that we're saving $77,000 a year off of his previous processor. Because over time, that processing rate with his previous processor, they just kept creeping it up. They put it as one line at the bottom of the statement. Oh, June of 2018, your rate is going to go up by 0.2%. And every 6 months, they'd send that same statement and nobody looked at their statements. And so they're just like, if you don't respond to this, this is your acceptance of this fee increase. So he ended up paying 9.7% when we looked at it. If I would have said, we can save you $35,000 a year, would that be something you want to do? And he would have signed up. But I knew that was still grossly overcharging him. So we had that standardized pricing. It didn't matter if you were a big practice, a small practice, a multi-practice. I'm treating all of my colleagues the same way. And so that's just the transparency and honesty. Yeah, we're leaving a lot of profit on the table, but we're putting it all back into the dentist's pocket. what we started to become was more of a solutions company as opposed to a payments company, because along the way, we were using my office to look at how could we leverage payments to increase productivity, increase case acceptance, bring in larger cases, like all of these different ways. At one point in my practice, I think it was like 2017, 2018, Eli Lilly got rid of their retiree dental plan. So we had a lot of like former Eli Lilly execs who were like, what are we going to do for dental insurance? We don't want to leave your dental office, but you're a fee for service. What can we do? So we created an in-office membership plan. Well, I needed a way to manage that plan. So what we did is we created a platform to manage an in-office membership plan. That rolled into an automated payment plan for larger treatment plan cases, because I hated the fees that I was paying to third-party financing companies like Care Credit, Sunbit, and Cherry. Why am I giving up 10% of my profit to a third-party company when if I know these patients, they're established patients, they're not going to default on their payments. Why don't I keep that profitability in my office? But I want a way to automate it. And then I was sitting there one night, like paying my gas bill online. I'm like, why can't I do this for my dental practice? Why can't I give my patients a payment option on the website to pay while they're drinking a glass of wine or a cup of coffee in the morning? Like lower the hurdles to making payments. And so we created a platform that was all encompassing. You call it silos, right? Every piece of business gets siloed. So if we can remove those silos and bring them into one solution, we're eliminating other fees as well. We eliminated Care Credit fees. We eliminated a third-party membership plan fees. We eliminated another processor that was running the payments for office websites, because that was separate from the payments that were being run in the office. And by bringing those all into one silo, all those payments are funneling into one funding cycle, making it easier to reconcile your end of day reports, minimizing your fees that you're having. Not only are we saving people on the processing fees, but we're saving them on unnecessary third-party software fees. So let's say we're saving an office $200 a month in their processing, but then we're eliminating their membership plan, their finance charges, the website management fees. We're really saving them $700 in other fees. So it's almost $1,000 in savings on top of that. That's what we kind of grew into. 70% of our team has worked in a dental practice as either an assistant, a hygienist, a front office manager, or a dentist. And so we are very intimately in tune with the problems that happen in dental practices every day. And we know we have to be ultra responsive to help fix them and provide a solution, because you can't be having 3 people standing at checkout and your credit card terminal down. You have to be able to take payments, right? We were one of the first companies to bring contactless payments during COVID as well, through text to pay links, because I needed it in my own practice. My front desk did not want to touch somebody else's credit card. Okay, let's send them a text to link. How do we create that in the platform and allow that to be accessible? So all of the solutions that we have were born out of necessity over time within my own dental practice. So they were actually created in the lab of my dental office. And what we're seeing now, kind of looking at the trends that we're seeing, especially post-COVID, with all of our costs going up, insurance reimbursements going down, dental offices are getting squeezed into the middle. Overhead's going up, production's going down. And so like, where can you claw back profitability? And one of the easy trends that has been occurring is in passing the fees on to the patient or to the customer. We see this a lot. It really started in large cities, tourist destinations, where you weren't having a lot of repeat customers because people weren't worried about upsetting their customer base. But over time, really over the past 5 years, this has become the norm in large cities, and now it's trickling down to the rest of America. We're a little bit late to the game with our solution because I wanted to be intentional about it. I wanted to make sure that we're following rules, regulations with insurance contracts, with state regulations. Like, I didn't want to put my colleagues in hot water in any way. But we did about 3 years ago, rolled out officially Apex Zero, which is zero cost processing for dental offices. And that immediately cuts out 2 to 2.5% of your overhead, or higher if you're with a different company. That's if you're an existing Apex client already saving money. We're eliminating that 2% that's straight from your overhead. But with new customers that are coming in that are paying 3, 4, 5% on their processing fees, that's like an immediate 5% reduction in your overhead for doing nothing different. Oh, we're saving you 5% and we're providing you solutions for the office. Like, we're allowing you to be the bank, eliminate these other fees. The savings that we're generating with this are crazy. Now, the big concern has always been in dentistry. That's tacky. Don't pass on the fee. Just bake it into your fees, right? Just increase your fees. Easy to say for a fee-for-service office.
Yeah, you can't really do that if the insurance company dictates your fees.
That's exactly right. You can't increase your fees. So you're stuck taking less and less income because insurance companies are taking more and more, paying out less and less, and credit card interchange rates are still going up. So it might sound a little contradictory, but I hate credit cards. I think it's one of the biggest problems in America is because people don't understand there's a cost to using your card that's usually absorbed by the business. And nobody understands those fees like Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express. They just slowly boil the water with you in it, right? And it's to turn the temperature up, raise the fees. But it's behind a curtain and nobody can see it. So by passing the fees on to the patient or the customer, we're bringing awareness of that cost to the client. There's two forms of doing this, passing the fees on to the patient. They're both under the Apex Zero umbrella, but one of them is a cash discounting and one of them is a surcharging model. And I'm a big fan of the surcharging model because you're still giving the patient the option to pay with a debit card and they don't take the fees. The office will absorb those fees. Let's look at it here. So if a patient walks up in the surcharging model, they owe $100 and they want to pay with a credit card. Okay, Mrs. Smith, there's going to be a 3% charge for using your credit card. So you will owe us $103 today. I don't want that fee. Okay, good news. You can use a debit card, pay with cash or check, and you can avoid that fee. And it's just $100. But I want to use my credit card. Why do you want to use your credit card? Because I want to get the points. Okay, I understand that. But if you want to get the points, you're going to have to pay for the points. We're not going to buy your points for you. But we are providing you with the option of not paying that fee. And so that's really gone over really well in dental offices because this is the best model to use in a PPO setting because you're not violating the terms of what you're charging a patient. And credit card fees have nothing to do with contractual obligations with insurance companies. It has nothing to do with HIPAA compliance. It is strictly just a monetary transaction. And a lot of companies will be out there trying to scare you into, oh, you have to follow these rules and do this. It's untrue. Okay. As long as you're following the state and federal regulations for processing credit cards, you're completely fine. The other method of doing it is called cash discounting, where there's a fee, 3.5% fee for all cards. Doesn't matter if it's credit or debit. And that just gets passed on to the patient. All the office pays is a $40 a month platform fee that provides all the tools that save you money in different areas of dentistry. Like I said, I like to approach it like I do dentistry. For any problem that a patient brings into the office, I'm giving them 3 different options, right? Option A, option B, option C. There's going to be the recommended. Sometimes it's the most expensive, but then there's going to be middle of the road. And then there's here's your most cost-effective option. All 3 are clinically acceptable. It all just depends on the conversation. What do you want as the patient? And so that way, when we're providing the patient with those options, they walk away happy because they had a voice in their decision. And we walk away happy because we know we've educated them in their decision at the end of the day is their decision. Same thing with payment options, right? You can either pay the credit card fee, you can pay with a debit card fee and the office will absorb the fee, or you can pay with cash and there's no fee. Which option would you like? There's been very little pushback with that. A lot of offices have been worried, oh, what are my patients going to think? Am I going to lose patients over this? And like you said, it's becoming the trend and the norm for all transactions, especially, like you said, online, which really kind of irks me because it's like some companies don't even give you the option of paying with ACH or via any other method. So here's how you have to pay, and you have to pay this additional fee. That's just your fee. If you're not giving them the option to not pay the fee, then there's no option. That is the trend that is happening. We've had a 500% increase in customers using this model over the past 3 years. Actually, 10% of our client base has converted from the traditional Interchange Plus model to the Apex Zero model so far. And we've only had 2 offices switch back. And that's what we give offices the option as well. Hey, you can test drive this program for 30 or 60 days. And if you get a ton of pushback and don't want it, we'll just convert you back to the traditional Interchange Plus model where you're already saving money versus the competition. But like I said, now we've had over 500 offices switch over to it and only 2 have switched back or gone away from it. So there's no pushback. It's not.
It's funny. You hear a lot of different stories in terms of this. And it's also possible, like I said at the start of the episode, that someone swapping a credit card is super common. action in a dental practice every single day. Just to put like some numbers to it, if you've got $1 million going through a year in credit card transactions, 3% on $1 million is $30,000. That's not an insignificant amount of money. And a common thing that I see on my side from clients that have came through is I see that they get a loan from a bank and then they're in the platform, they're in the system, and they're like, yeah, here's your merchant service fee thing, your merchant processing thing. They just do it because it's a part of the bank that they're going to, and they don't know the fees, they don't know what's going on. They're just like, I know it works, and so I'm going to do it. Maybe it connects to their EagleSoft or something like that. And when they swap the card, it gets populated into EagleSoft. And so they don't have to make sure that someone knows how to hit 5 buttons in a row on the computer. That's a very common thing that comes through in that way. Another very common thing is that people will say the cost of switching is too high. I got to get new machines in, or it doesn't integrate with the EagleSoft. So again, I've got to push the buttons and someone's going to mess that up or whatever it may be. That's a very common one. And then also, it is also very common that people just don't pay attention to how much they're paying in it, because it's one of those things that you almost never see it. And sometimes I've asked people for copies of merchant service statements in the past, and they're like, I don't even have that. Like, I don't even know what that is. I don't remember getting these anytime recently. I do see a challenge that potentially, if everyone's passing the fees on to the patients, that could actually get worse, that people just don't pay attention to what the percentages are. Because if they're not actually paying it, then there's going to be this creep of a percentage going up. And I can understand, I'm not paying the percentage, that doesn't matter to me. But at the same time, you got to do what's best for your patients and your clients and customers, whatever you want to call it. So you should be paying attention to that moving forward too. So you mentioned effective rate, you defined it earlier. It's effectively whatever fee goes to the credit card processor divided by whatever dollar value transactions you did equals the percentage that you're going to have on that in terms of effective percentage. But talk to me just real quick about that. Hey, my bank gave me the loan, I'm using their stuff. Talk to me about, hey, it's hard to switch. Talk to me about making sure you watch that effective rate.
Sure. So let's dive into the bank issue, because that's why I created Apex. The bank is like, hey, you'll pay on your practice loan, it's going to be 5%, or it will be 4.75% if you use our processing company. But what I found out is they were charging me a full percent more than the competition for the processing. So they were making up that 0.25% on the processing, which I'm just like, you're just stealing from Peter to pay Paul here. And a lot of banks will try to leverage that you have to use their processor. And again, that's just like a contract. Run from that. If they're like trying to force you to do something, it's because they're going to take advantage of you. And you are not legally obligated to use the processor from your bank. Don't let any rep ever tell you that. That is a lie. They had no right to do that. Now, they can offer you a discount on your rate for your loan, but they're going to make that up and more on the processing side of things. It is not hard to switch. With our terminals, if you're using the surcharging or the Apex Zero program, you get a free terminal anyways, and it comes pre-programmed, ready to plug in and go. It's the easiest thing to switch with our company. When you receive the terminal, like I said, it's pre-programmed with your merchant ID already linked to your bank account. And what you do is you plug it in, you run a test transaction with our team. When you are ready to set it up, your service team member or your success team member will walk you through that transaction, walk you through the platform, provide continuous free ongoing support and training to utilize the platform. You run that test transaction. Once you get the green check or the all clear, you stop processing with your existing processor and you start with Apex, and you don't miss a beat. It is the smoothest transition that could possibly be. And it's also the lowest threshold to entry. We talk about contracts. What we do have when we provide free terminals, all we say is, hey, if you process with us for less than 2 years, we just ask that you pay for the equipment that we provided for you. Because our profitability is so low, we don't really profit on that free equipment until that 2-year mark. We're just trying to be as transparent and cost effective as possible for the offices. And sometimes offices are like, you know what, I don't want to have to pay the early termination fee, so I'll just pay for the equipment outright. Perfectly fine. We provide the equipment at cost. It's not marked up. We don't do equipment leases. Run from equipment leases, because you end up paying 4 or 5 times what you should have paid for that terminal if you lease that equipment. Even though it's only $35 a month, you're going to pay for that over the next 4 or 5 years, and you could have bought 3 or 4 new terminals in that time frame because we just provide them at cost. Like I said, it's just all about transparency and honesty. How can we provide the best service at the lowest cost? Hey, our books are open. Here's what we're making off of the processing, and here's what you're saying.
Yeah, I love it. And just so people are aware, also, and I'm not saying this is happening specifically in merchant processing services. I've read articles about this though. Every type of business is getting bought by private equity right now. Someone's out there trying to buy businesses now. It's not just the dental space, it's also in every space. And I can definitely see someone be like, hey, I went and bought this merchant processing company. And the whole model is we have unlimited capital. We buy as many of these as we can every year. And the whole game is we get them in, we just start adding fees just over time. That's the whole game that they're probably playing because they know that people probably aren't paying that much attention to what those percentages are. Because honestly, let's call a spade a spade. Most people are bad at math just naturally, and they don't pay attention to what 0.1% even makes sense to do. Maybe sometimes there's a contract that's associated with that. Hey, by the way, we're just acquired by ABC merchant processing companies. This gives us best in class service. It does all these other types of things. We just need you to sign this new letter of contract that's actually going to give you an introductory rate of this. It's a cut on what you're currently paying. And then lo and behold, 3 months later, it starts eking up and you don't ever look at it again because all you remember is the number that was quoted to you a while back. Or there's like extra expenses or fees are added on every month or something like that. Till eventually you're a few years in, you're like, oh, I'm paying like 4.5% on my credit card fees. And you don't even know it because that literal business model is to build people up to as high a percentage as they can go. And then as people atrophy off, then they just wind it down and go to the next one. They made their ROI and whatever they purchased that business for off of the increase in revenue. Because if you think about it, this is how math works. The difference in a 3% financing charge and a 2% financing charge is not 1%. It's a 50% decrease. If you're going from 3 to 2, it's a very big difference. And if you're out there buying, processing companies that are 2.5% is what they're charging, you can get it to 3.5%. You've effectively created so much profit on that spread of 1% of buying that model that I know there has to be people out there that are doing that in that industry. In some ways, it's banking on people not paying attention to it.
It's absolutely true. It happens all the time. There are companies out there that will sign you up under an extremely low rate. But what they don't tell you is every 6 months, they're going to raise your rate. Typically, it's by 0.25 or 0.4% every 6 months. And they just keep doing that until you notice. And then they'll be like, oh, we'll reduce your rate back again. And then they start creeping it back up. It's like, why are we doing business with companies that are intentionally trying to profit more off of us over time and trying to slide something in there? Banks are notorious for doing this. There are other processors doing this. Integrated processors do this a lot because they know they're the only option for integrated processing. So they try and really convince offices, oh, you need to have an integrated processor because like you said, oh, there's 5 more clicks and somebody's going to forget a step here. And that's inherently false. There's one different click for Apex and it takes less time to process through our terminal than the integrated terminals. And in my mind as a dentist, and I apologize if there are office managers or front desk listening or watching to this, we are paying our teams up front to do a job. And the job we are paying them to do is increase our profitability. So why are we implementing systems that make their jobs easier and increase our costs? That's just bad business.
The other argument that I would make is if your front office people can't figure out how to make the right click, why are they your office people? So that's also a challenge there too. So anyway, great episode. I appreciate you gathering all the insights. If you're out there listening, call to action right now, go out there, get your most recent merchant processing statement, look at how many charges you had to patients, take how much you paid that company for that statement, do some math. The numerator is going to be the fee. The denominator is going to be the amount of processing you did, whatever percentage comes out of that. If it is higher than 2.5%, then you know you're paying a very high rate. And definitely contact Dr. Zach and Apex Payment Solutions for a quote. In addition, I think that Dr. Zach, you said that you guys actually do that for people as well, because sometimes those statements are not super intuitive as well.
Yep. And so, the call to action that I provide to people is let us do a cost-free analysis for you just to show you, are there hidden fees? What is your percentage? Where can you save money? You have no obligation to use us by doing that, but we're just providing you with different options. And the best way to reach out there is through our website. We have a contact form that you can fill out and actually upload your statements if you want somebody to reach out to you with a cost comparison analysis, because we know everybody doesn't have the time to go back and forth with emails and calls. So if you go to www.apexpaymentsolutions.com, click the contact form, you can upload, you can schedule a meeting at your convenience to learn more about the company, and we can provide you with all of that information. And also what I like to do is make myself personally available to practice owners. If they're like, wait a minute, how can I decrease my overhead? Doctors acted. What can I do to increase my profitability? Feel free to shoot me an email. It's just ZAK@apexpaymentsolutions.com. And I'm happy to take the time to help my colleagues out, especially those that are just new to business or that might feel like underwater or like they're drowning. I'm happy to help you walk through different ways that you can increase your profitability, get your feet underneath you, and have a successful practice.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks for coming on the podcast for all the tweaks and pointers. Thanks for listening today. For all the links we just discussed, we'll have some in the show notes. So if you're listening in through a podcast, check the show notes and we should be able to have those links on there as well. And Dr. Zach, thanks again for coming in and being a friend of the pod, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Tooth and Coin podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please share it with a fellow dentist or a practice owner who could benefit. Your word of mouth helps us spread financial wisdom throughout the dental community. So until next time, keep building that thriving practice.